putting on a show, putting on a performance, because we know that fans flock to the arena just to see this man, even if it's hours ahead of tip-off. But now it's time for tonight's three-point performance, brought to you by Mountain Dew. So the Suns have made 17 threes for the second game in a row in a win over the Pelicans. So Phoenix was led by their starting forwards, that's Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, who both made 5 threes each. And the Suns, they dealt the Pelicans their third straight loss and fourth in their last 5 games. So joining us now for more on the most important, arguably, Pelican is senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj, what's the latest on the rehab process for Zion Williamson?
Malika, the rehab process has moved from New Orleans to Portland, Oregon. And the Pelicans and Zion Williamson agreed on this and worked together, to get him to Portland. And, Zion's trying to come back now from a foot fracture. That's included a couple setbacks in terms of the timeline. But I'm told that the intention, the expectation remains that Zion Williamson will play this season for the Pelicans. But he's in Portland now. The team is still supervising his regimen there. But he's gotten away from town. And so he'll continue to work there. But again, the intention is that he will play for the Pelicans this season. But for now, his rehab is in the Pacific Northwest.
Rehabbing in Oregon, but the intention is still for him to come back. Thank you so much, Adrian Wojnarowski. Really appreciate it. So sticking in the West here, let's go over to the Lakers for Anthony Davis. He's missed his last 9 games, the sprained MCL. But recently, LeBron James and Russell Westbrook, they seem to have gotten the team back together a little bit. They've been back on track, winning 4 of their last 5 games. And last night's victory against the Kings was led by Russell Westbrook, committing not a single turnover for the first time in 407 games. That's since 2016, guys. So the win also made LeBron 4-0 this season when he's playing at center. So Jalen, for you, what is more eye-opening? 0 turnovers for Russell Westbrook or LeBron at center?
So if you played the game and know the game, Russell Westbrook having 0 turnovers and us amplifying it in a lot of ways, if you really know his game, is a backhanded compliment. And I'll tell you why. Because he only had 2 assists. And that means he wasn't being the reckless, aggressive Russell Westbrook that made him a Hall of Famer and an MVP of the league. When he did his interview the other day, and he missed a lot of shots, and he had a lot of turnovers, he went to the podium and he said, I can miss a lot of shots, and I can have a lot of turnovers.
He did.
Except he went in the game, he was like, you know what? I'm going to make sure I keep the turnovers down to keep the noise down.
Ooh, that's close. But I think really it's LeBron James playing center, and this is why. At the end of the day, you have to lead by example. We have all been around great players. Jalen, you've been around great players. You have to lead by example. And there's been so much conversation about Anthony Davis playing center and where he feels most comfortable. Well, if you want to get to where you haven't gotten or quite quote unquote been before, you got to do things that might make you uncomfortable. So with LeBron James, in my opinion, here, he's like, center, you need me to play center? Come on, because the most important thing to me is winning. So if you need me to play center, that's what I'll do. So in my opinion, and this is without speaking to anyone in the Lakers organization, I'm seeing a message being sent. If this 37-year-old with all these miles can come out here, defend, run the floor, play the center spot, then what do we expect from our 6'11" stud in Anthony Davis? This is what we expect, this type of performance or better from you.
There's 2 wildly different dynamics going on with the Lakers right now. And you got LeBron is playing so well that for anybody, much less somebody at this age, I know he hates that phrase, but in the meantime, the Lakers aren't doing anything that's impressive.
Nope.
The Lakers, those 3 wins, people are going nuts over 3 wins, and even LeBron was like barking in Sacramento. Portland, who has the worst road record in the NBA, Minnesota, all right, and the Kings, look at this. They lost to the Grizzlies, and they're probably going to lose to the Grizzlies at the other end of this streak, because the Grizzlies, wow, talk about a team that deserves more love right now. But the Lakers haven't beaten anybody. I'm still waiting. I am still waiting to see some impressive wins. You know who has impressive wins in the Western Conference?
Memphis.
Ja Morant.
Yes.
Ja Morant. And again, LeBron, you are so right, Richard. LeBron is he's basically saying, look at me. This is first-hand alpha male leadership, and the Lakers still aren't any good.
Well, and just really quickly, the only thing I'm going to say about this is that the reason why people are applauding these 3 wins It's because they were losing to teams like this earlier. They're like, we lost.
You can only
we
beat
were
the teams
losing.
that
We
are in
lost to
front of you.
Sacramento. We lost to
OKC.
Oklahoma City. Like, Houston took us down to the wire. So it's like, hey, at least we're now beating the teams that we're supposed to beat. But that's when you're applauding, minimal performance. Like, that's not something.
Grading on the curve.
It's good for the Lakers, but it's not real.
But here's what creates a discussion topic. You got a story brand in the Lakers. You got LeBron playing like a superstar. But the reality of our eye test, we know this team ain't winning the championship.
No, God, no.
Not this season.
Ew.
Golden State's better. Phoenix is better. The Jazz are just better.
Milwaukee's better.
And so based on
Yeah, that's only in the West. We haven't gone to the East.
Exactly. So based on that, it's tough for NBA supporters and fans to see a superstar performing as such, knowing that he ain't winning a championship this year.
Knowing that the cavalry sort of the pieces don't seem to be together yet, right? Because it's, okay, well, what happens when Anthony Davis comes back? Is LeBron then going to shift? You're going to have Anthony Davis buy in at center, because when they did win a championship, where was Anthony Davis playing?
The 5 in the bubble.
He was playing the 5 in the bubble. We have so much more NBA countdown coming up. Luka Doncic getting ready to play the Warriors at the bottom of the hour here on ESPN on Dirk Nowitzki's jersey retirement night. Getting nice and warm down there in Dallas. Plus, we have the Warriors. They have a winning recipe, but is there an exact amount of play time? Almost an entire calendar year. And most recently, they played in game 1 of last year's conference semis against the Bucks. They've gone 11-3 in those contests, but I don't really count the Bucks game because James Harden played like 7 seconds in it, right? So, gentlemen, Mr. Wilbon, does Kyrie's return make automatically Brooklyn the favorites to win the East?
No. And if it does make them a favorite, it's ever so slight favorites. There are too many good teams in the East now. We're used to the East being in sort of an inferior conference, right? I mean, all the time. West is best. And you look at the top, and the top of the West is still best when you look at Golden State, Phoenix, and Utah. But there are too many good teams in the East. I still think the road to the Eastern Conference Finals goes through Milwaukee. I keep waiting. I'm not going to say waiting. I'm a Chicagoan. I'm cheering on the Bulls. But I keep waiting for some sort of slippage, guys. We haven't seen that slippage, and maybe we're not going to see it with DeMar and Zach leading the way. But I'm not going to say heavy favorite, ever so slight favorite. First of all, it's like an all-star team. They haven't played together. How long is it going to take the New York or New Jersey?
Take your time. It's
The
okay.
New York, Brooklyn.
I'm still doing it, Richard.
It's
I'm still
okay.
doing
I
it.
do it every now and then.
The Brooklyn Nets to be a team, to be a full-fledged working unit.
Well, and that's the discussion that was surrounding them last season too, right, Jalen?
I don't think it makes them the automatic favorite based on what Wilbon just said, and they don't really have not too many teams. Nobody, as a matter of fact, has somebody that can slow down Giannis, and he's just going to be so very dominant when he goes against them. But they are my pick with Kyrie, even though he's a part-time player, to win the East. And it's for the reasons you just said, Malika. 50, 40, 90 last year on 25 points. He averaged 28 on the road last year. And those are the games he's going to be playing in.
All right.
Now, look, you got to understand, too, it's not just Kyrie. Like, they're also missing Joe Harris. And can we talk about the addition of Patty Mills? My God. The way he has played, he has been one of the most underrated pickups. And we're not talking about superstars like DeMar DeRozan going to Chicago, but he has been underrated. But I got one last thing to say. Hey, teams, when you are retiring a player's jersey, you got to be a little bit more selective. You guys are going to sell out no matter what. If you don't, Steph Curry might come in there and just ruin dirt. We saw what happened when Paul Pierce got a jersey retired and Bron's in there. Paul, love you to death, man. He over there looking grumpy, and rightfully so. You can't just be, hey, we're going to bring the Warriors and Steph in here, and all of a sudden Steph can go for 50 and Dirk is like, man, this dude over here.
Well, you're supposed to retire the jersey on the night you wouldn't sell out anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Thank
the
you.
game.
Thank you.
Bruce, let's just
Thank
piggyback
you.
on one thing. I got to give Jalen some credit because early on, he said without Kyrie, there's another piece missing in Brooklyn. And that is somebody better lock down the paint, and they still haven't made that acquisition. And maybe they don't have to. So I got to give Jalen credit because he said this from night one. Wait a minute. If you don't have Kyrie and if you don't have this second piece, no Eastern Conference championship. But now they got half of it, Jalen. So you think they can do it without making that deal?
Because LaMarcus Aldridge has been a revelation starting for them. Earlier in the year, he led the league in jump shot shooting percentage. Like, he's on fire. So Sean Marks, who spent a lot of time in Phoenix and San Antonio, he's going to go get Patty Mills. He's going to go get LaMarcus Aldridge because he's really familiar with how they do things in the Spurs way.
Well, and LaMarcus Aldridge also slated to make a comeback. He said that COVID-19, it hit him pretty hard. He felt those body aches, those chills, and so seeing how he returns from that, that's also going to be key, along with watching Kyrie Irving. But 10 players are averaging 20, 5, and 5 per game this season, and the Nets are the only team with 2 players averaging 25 and 5, and that's James Harden and Kevin Durant. So coming up, the Warriors and Mavericks, they're at the bottom of the hour, but today only, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and explore exclusive NBA offers. And if you're not a sports betting state, if you're not in one, you can still play free for $5,000 with free pick and roll NBA pools.